Good evening, folks, and welcome to the Horror Corner. I'm your host, Sean Patrick Erschen, and this week we are taking a look back at an 80s slasher classic, and that is The Burning, directed by Tony Maylam, starring Jason Alexander, Fisher Stevens, Larry Joshua, and Holly Hunter in all of their first screen appearances. So that's always cool when you see these classic actors in their early starring roles in horror movies. I always think that's fun. So The Burning is directed by Tony Maylam, and it features gore and special makeup effects by the legendary Tom Savini, who actually was supposed to work on Friday the 13th Part 2, but he decided not to. He didn't like the script. So he chose to do The Burning instead, which is funny because The Burning is very similar to Friday the 13th, you know. It's that camp setting, summer camp. And this is definitely one of the best slasher films of the 80s. And I'm embarrassed to say that I didn't see it until very recently, till within the past couple of years. But that's just how it goes, you know. You can't see every single horror film ever made, but I didn't even hear about it until a couple of years ago, which is crazy. But that's just how it goes, you know. And also, the Last Shoegazer, Nick, did a review of The Burning as well. So he kind of beat me to the punch. I've been meaning to do this for a long time. So guys, check out Nick the Last Shoegazer's review of The Burning as well. So the film starts out with a bunch of camp counselors at Camp Blackfoot. And there's this guy, Cropsy, who is the caretaker of the camp. And he's got a reputation for pranking and scaring the kids, you know. And so these camp counselors want to get their revenge on him by scaring the crap out of him. So they decide to put a mummified human head and use it as a candle, and they lay it next to his bed. So they're outside Cropsy's window, tapping on the window, trying to get him to wake up. And when he does, he really freaks out and he knocks the head over, and it starts a fire, and the fire catches him. And there's also a gas can sitting next to his bed, and that really engulfs his body in flames, and he goes running outside the house screaming his brains off, and the kids are all freaking out. And he tumbles down a hill and falls in the lake. And then he wakes up, he's in the hospital, and they tell him, you know, it's time to go, we've done all we can, you're physically able to leave, and we've done all we could to save your face as much as possible, but a lot of the skin grafts and everything we tried to do failed, so you're just going to have to live with it the way it is. And he's horribly burned from head to toe, his arms, his legs, and especially his face. His face is completely grotesque. So they say, and they also say as he's about to go out the door, try not to blame the kids, you know, it was just an accident. And then first thing as soon as he gets out of the hospital, what does he do? He picks up a random prostitute on the street and takes her up to the motel room and viciously murders her, stabbing her in the gut, and you see the blood splurting everywhere. So that's his first victim. So now a few years later, it takes place at Camp Stonewater, which is right near the old Camp Blackfoot site. So then we meet these kids, and they're just young kids, and we meet Jason Alexander's character Dave. We meet this guy Glazer, played by Larry Joshua. He's like this cocky, arrogant bully type. And then you've got Jason Alexander's character Dave is kind of arrogant, but he's funny. He's very much like, you know, you see him in other movies, and especially Seinfeld, where he plays George Costanza. He's very similar, funny guy, you know. And you get Sophie, who's really cute, played by Holly Hunter. And you got this Brian Matthews, played the head camp counselor, Todd. And there's a scene that's very similar to the Friday the 13th films, where they all gather around the campfire late at night and tell the spooky story of the legend of Cropsy, which is an old New York legend, I guess. And then it turns out to be a scare prank, just like the Friday the 13th film. And I always thought that's funny because Tom Savini decided not to work on Friday the 13th Part 2, yet there's a couple very similar scenes to Friday the 13th Part 2, and they both came out the same year, 1981. There's also a very similar scene where a young couple skinny dips in the lake, and then when the girl goes to get her clothes are missing, just like that scene in Friday Part 2. Only this has a lot different results. The girl ends up killed by Cropsy with the garden shears. That's Cropsy's weapon of choice in this film. And I must say, he takes good care of those garden shears. It's extremely shiny, extremely sharp. You can tell he definitely sharpens the hell out of it. Because these are extremely sharp garden shears. And they used the grisly, gory effect. And the gore effects in this film are amazing. Definitely some of Tom Savini's best work. So when the young girl Karen is murdered, all the kids trying to find out, she's missing. Where'd she go? They go on a search looking for her. They split up. One half goes here, and apparently some of the canoes are missing. So they go out in one of their canoes and try and look. Maybe Karen took off in one of the canoes. Who knows? So they gather around in a group and they go looking for Karen, and they come across an abandoned canoe. So they go in to inspect it a little further, and out comes Cropsy with the garden shears, and he hacks the shit and kills everyone in the raft. And he chops up Fisher Stevens' hands, his fingers fall off, he scalps one girl's face, and he jabs the garden shear right into one of the kids' necks. Oh, it's brutal, it's vicious, it's bloody as hell. It's one of the most famous, one of the nastiest gore scenes in any slasher film, and it's just awesome. It's one of the coolest, nastiest scenes in horror history, probably. And so what happens is Cropsy eventually takes them all out one by one in grisly, gory fashion. One of the kids, the cocky Glazer character, gets the shears jabbed right into the neck like this, whoosh, and he gets pushed up against a tree. It's brutal. Nasty stuff, man. But what happens is the kid Alfred, who's like this perv dude, he gets caught spying on this girl in this real gratuitous nudity scene. He's spying on her in the shower. But this kid's like a real misfit. All the kids bully on him and pick on him. But he's the one that actually spots Cropsy in the window one night when they're all hanging out partying. He sees Cropsy in the windows looking in at him. And he tries to tell all the other kids, and they don't believe him. So he goes and tells Todd, who's the head camp counselor, played by Brian Matthews. And he decides, well, maybe we'll check it out. And then once Cropsy finds Alfred, he runs after Alfred and chases him back to Cropsy's lair, which is like this abandoned mine shaft. It's really creepy. It's cool. It provides for really cool horror visuals. I love it. And Cropsy busts out this flamethrower. I was like, oh shit. And that's his point. He wants to kill them the same way he was burned, and burned alive. So then we find out a real twist in the story, and that is that, spoiler alert, this film is from 1981, people. Todd was actually one of the counselors that played the prank on Cropsy and got him burned. So yeah, how poetic. Cropsy wants to take him out with a flamethrower, just what they did to him. And in a way, you kind of feel bad for Cropsy. You understand why he's doing this. Why he's out to get his revenge. But it's just such an awesome movie, so I highly recommend The Burning. It's an awesome slasher, one of the best slashers of the early 1980s. And it's one of the best of the sleep-away camp or summer camp settings. and they use it so well. It's got an absolutely awesome score by one of the guys from the rock group Yes. So a really cool, really creepy synthesizer type, you know, almost like John Carpenter-esque synthesizer horror rhythms, and I love it. It's really awesome, really effective, and the acting is great. I love the characters, you know. The characters are really well fleshed out, really well played by the actors, and these are some of the most legendary actors in our business. Holly Hunter, she's an Oscar winner. And Fisher Stevens, I believe, won an Oscar too. And we all know him, of course, from the Short Circuit films, and he's great in the film. I love everyone. I love all the characters in the movie, and it's just so awesome. And Cropsy is a really cool look to a slasher killer. That burned face and the garden shears. Oh, it's just an awesome movie all the way around. So I highly recommend The Burning, directed by Tony Maylam, and it's produced by Harvey Weinstein. And featuring legendary gore effects by the gore master Tom Savini. So that's my review of The Burning, guys. Thank you for joining me, Sean Patrick Erschen, in the Horror Corner. Tune in and stay scared.